If you just watch my feet and don't think about it, you go like, well, what's the big deal about the pivot? Well, see, you don't really know how big the move is until you walk it out. Because if I walk this way, and if I kept walking that way, it would be a completely, if I walk this way, and all I did was this. It's a small move, but it sets the direction. And that's what's happening in your life when you decide like how to speak to people, when you decide like whether or not you're gonna come back next weekend to church. It's a small decision, but it sets the direction. When you decide, am I gonna tithe and put God first? Oh yeah, I'm gonna put tithing in the sermon series. I'm gonna put it in because it's a decision. It is the will of God for you to put him first. And when you decide like, I'm gonna do that, it sets a direction to seek God first. When you decide like, you know what, I'm gonna text my wife, I'm gonna text her and tell her I'm gonna be home at a certain time, and I'm actually gonna be home at that time. It's a little decision, but it sets a direction. Because when you set a direction, you know, I can count on you and you're gonna do it. When you show up and eat with your family, that's not a big decision. We want big decisions, big things from God. No, it's the pivotal decisions. It's the little things that you do that set the direction for your day and for your decade. And even for generations to come. Now, it's all going good until one day, chapter 14, verse 1 says that Samson pivoted and went down to Timnah. Not very far from where he was living at the time. But when he got there, he saw a young Philistine woman. Who was he supposed to deliver his people from? So now he's in love with what he's called to defeat. And he has a desire. Have you got some desires that don't look anything like Bible verses, just at least one or two? I do. He saw this young woman. This is not Delilah. That's the only woman we ever talk about in Samson's life. You know, combed his hair and set him up and got his eyes gouged out. That's in chapter 16. We're not even close to that yet. This is just his pivotal moment. Some of you are in a pivotal moment right now, deciding things. And he came back and said to his father and mother, verse 2, I have seen a Philistine woman. Oh, by the way, the key verse in the book of Judges says many different times, I don't know how many, but it says at least 3 times, they did what was right in their own eyes. And so Samson says, I saw with my senses. I saw my senses, my feelings, my emotions. I saw a Philistine woman in Timnah. Now get her for me as my wife. And his father and mother replied, think how heartbreaking this is. He's on the path, he's growing, he's being blessed, Spirit of the Lord stirring him. Oh, it's just like I thought it was gonna be. You know, I graduated college, I got the job, I did the thing, and then all of a sudden, life will just pivot on you. And the kid was so cute, until they started saying words. So cute, till they started saying, mine. You know, not just with children, but things in our life that just all of a sudden like is headed this way, just like I said, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding. I hear you, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, in all your ways acknowledge him. And you know, I didn't drink the fermented drink like the angel said, and I didn't eat the unclean food. And he's doing right. And all of a sudden Samson said, I saw something in Timnah. Whoa, come back. And now watch this. The destiny of the nation is threatened by Samson's bad decision. And the parents are like, please make a better decision. Please quit hanging out with those friends. Please, I'm telling you, it's dangerous. I'm telling you, it's wrong. Because the Philistines were known for child sacrifice. The Philistines were known for worshiping other gods. The Philistines were known for very abusive practices that were contrary to the word of God. And his father and mother replied, isn't there an acceptable woman among your relatives or among all our people? Must you go to the uncircumcised Philistines to get a wife? But Samson had already made his decision. And now this child, I'm just thinking as a parent who had so much promise, so much potential, needs a haircut, but even that's intentional. Now he's making the dumbest decision he could possibly make, to run to what he's supposed to be delivering the people from. And they can't convince him. Now, this is where it gets tricky, because it's hard enough to make your own good decisions. But then you start throwing in the decisions that other people make that you can't affect or control, no matter how hard you try. And everybody who writes parenting books, I want to give them just one bad kid and see would they still write it the same way. Because all this 7 ways to raise your kid with the, from the book of Ruth, whatever. I'll give you one demon child with a strong will and you will burn your own book. Get out of my face. Because some stuff you can't control. Hello. He was determined. He was determined. He was already gone. So they went with him. And this is the pivotal moment of my message. This is the part God showed me that got me so excited, because everyone in here knows what it is to have the plan that you made, right, in your head, the model that you had that doesn't match the life that you're living. And now all of a sudden, Samson, whose name means son, Samson, who's radiant, Samson, who's blessed, Samson, who's strong, Samson, who carries the expectation of the deliverance of the nation on his shoulders, is making a dumb decision. And it doesn't have to be a kid, and it doesn't have to be a spouse. It doesn't have to be a relationship at all. You are going to go into some situations in your life that you will pray about, plead about, and plan about, and none of it will work. And you will be faced with the question, now what do? I want to suggest that when this happens, that you consider the parentheses. There's a little thing that Samuel will put into the record. And he was writing this record long after the events had happened. And all Samson's parents knew was, this is trouble. If he marries her, it's going to lead to all kinds of clashing values. If he goes through with this, because that's all we know when we're in it is our plan. But watch how the text pivots with a parenthetical insert. Have you studied any grammar books lately? The parentheses is when you want to put something in the sentence, but the sentence makes sense without it, but you add it in to give additional information that might be helpful to the person reading it, but the sentence would make sense without it. But the parentheses in Judges chapter 14, verse 4 says, his parents did not know that this was from the Lord. They knew Samson was from the Lord because the angel spoke it and her womb was barren. So the only way it could have happened was that it was from the Lord. But now they've got to look at a disappointment. Look, it's no problem to look at your gifts, your blessings, and your strengths and say, this is from the Lord. I praise you for another day. How great and mighty you are. And I lift your name on high. But this, have you ever had to walk through a situation where you thought, really, God, I didn't drink any wine and I didn't eat any unclean foods and I did everything the angel told me, and now this, you're really going to let this break out in my life? And the author said, yeah, this was from the Lord, because he was seeking an occasion. The Hebrew really means he was picking a fight. God wanted to set his people free from the Phoenicians, from the Philistines, and he was going to do it, but he wanted to do it not through a good decision, but through a bad decision. So watch what he does, because he's sovereign and almighty, and the Lord is his name, and he is beyond understanding, and his ways no man can fathom. Watch what he does. He uses Samson's dumb decision to deliver a nation. Now, if he did that for Samson, won't he do it for you? Won't he use this too? the more things that I can look at my life and say, this is from the Lord. Look, he didn't, give me my verse again. Verse 4, it's so good. And it's in parentheses because the sentence will make sense without it, but your life will not make sense without this. Try and make sense of it. You need to put a parentheses on it and be like, there's something that the author knows that I don't know yet. And he who began, I'm looking for whoever God gave me this sermon for, because it couldn't have just been me. Touch somebody, say, put a purpose on it. Put a purpose on it. Because when you find yourself beyond your understanding, you got to pivot to the purpose. God, I don't like this right now. I don't get this right now. I can't explain this right now. I can't rationalize it right now. But if you started it, you'll finish it. There is power in the pivot. There is power in praise. And there is a purpose in your situation. There's a purpose in it. There's a purpose in it. God's trying to pick a fight with the devil, and he wants to break some things free and shut some things down and get some things through. And he's going to use this too. This is from the Lord. I'm making a decision right now, a pivotal decision. I'm going to turn from facing this and I'm facing this. I'm going to turn from what I don't understand to the God who, according to the mystery of his will, has predestined according to his good pleasure that all things work together for his purpose. I'm serving the God who could take an instrument of death called a Roman cross, hang on it, and then get down in the ground and come forth talking about, I am resurrection power, and I have the keys of death, hell, and the grave. I hear the Spirit of God saying, put a purpose on it. I know you're going through some pain, and I know your past was kind of rough, and you made a lot of mistakes, but put a purpose on it. God, would you use even the dumb stuff that I did to deliver your purpose? This is bigger than me. This is bigger than what I feel right now. This is bigger than what my mind can fathom. This is bigger than what my heart can know. This is bigger than my senses. This is bigger than this setback. This is bigger. This is bigger. This is bigger. He called me, he chose me, and I'm going to trust him that this is from the Lord. With a parenthetical insert, the NIV translation committee decided to let us know that there are some things that don't make sense in your life. But the parentheses, that's where you see the purpose. You just got to pivot and trust that it's there even when you can't fill it in yet. I don't have to explain why. People in this room had children die, husbands that left them, addictions that were passed on to them. I'm not talking about whether God did that or not. We know that humans make decisions, but God is a bigger God than you've given him credit for, and he's above every human decision. God is bigger than human decisions. And if Samson didn't marry that woman, the one that he wasn't supposed to marry, yeah, I know, it's crazy because we teach like, if you make good choices, God can use your life. I'm saying this too was from the Lord. He was looking for something. He's looking for something that he can work through, and he'll even use the dumb stuff. Because if he didn't marry this woman, right, when he was going down to get her and to pay the dowry for her with his parents, and killed the lion and ripped the lion apart, and then came back by after he came back for the wedding and saw honey in the lion's carcass and gave the honey, which he wasn't supposed to do because he wasn't supposed to touch anything dead, and gave it to his parents and licked some, and then went to the wedding and sat around the table with 30 boys talking about, I got a riddle for you. Out of the strong came something to eat, and out of the eater came something to eat, and out of the strong came something sweet. If you can solve my riddle, I'll give you 30 sets of linen clothing, but if you can't solve it, you're going to give me 30 sets of clothing. And the boys got to his wife, and they were like, tell us the riddle or we're going to kill your whole family. And then she was like, tell me the riddle, Samson, tell me the riddle. And then he said, oh, okay, well, I'll tell it to you, but don't tell it to them. But then she told it to them, and then they solved the riddle. And then he had to go to Asherek to kill 30 men and beat them up and kill them, to take their clothes, to bring them back because of his dumb decision. But that's what set him on a course to be able to have an opportunity to then go back home. And after the wedding, he went back home, and he was so mad at his wife for betraying him that he went back home and didn't even stay with her. And by the time he got back, she'd been married to another man because his father-in-law betrayed him, because he figured you never want to marry her now after what she did to you. But he came back and got so mad that he took 300 foxes and tied their tails together in pairs, lit them on fire, sent them loose in the Philistine fields. And when they tore up the fields, the Philistines were mad, but Samson killed them because he was strong. Now, he never would have killed them if they hadn't hurt him, and he never would have been hurt by them if he hadn't made the wrong decision. And so it goes to show that God is using everything. If he never would have set the foxes loose, they never would have come to Judah and tied him up and tried to deliver him so he could break them free and kill 1,000 of them with the jawbone of a donkey. If it never would have happened the way it happened, it couldn't be what it is. So stop looking at what it was and ask God what he wants it to be. God wants to use the dumb stuff too. You can't control it anyway. Spirit of the Lord is on you. The Spirit of the Lord is on you. If the lion comes to attack you, he will give you the ability to rip it open because the Spirit of the Lord is on you. And it's a pivotal decision that you make when you find yourself in these disappointing situations where it seems like you can't win, whether I'm going to believe that there is a bigger picture or if I'm going to minimize God's presence to the level of my understanding. Right here, right now, let's turn it around. Let's turn it around. And instead of trying to tell God what's best for us, and instead of trying to do what's right in our own eyes, let's turn it around. Instead of groveling in the guilt of things that are already over, I'm telling you, God uses the weirdest things about you. God uses that big nose that you hate and that little habit that you have. He uses that because when he delivers you from it, you could be a testimony, and he's going to use that too. This is from the Lord. How? I don't know. I don't know the plan. But when I don't know the plan, I pivot to the purpose.